Welcome to Chill Out. I'm Pam Chill, one of the Highland Park senior producers, and today's program is about making your home work for you. I'm delighted to have as my guest today Leslie Stern. Welcome.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to the program. So we'll be discussing living with style and accessibility. I'm going to do a brief bio on you. You're a very distinguished and renowned interior designer. As I told you before the show, I mentioned your name, and they were like, "Oh my God, you're so fortunate to have her on the program." And you know, people have known about you for many, many years, and many of the designs that you've done, both residential and commercial. Leslie draws on more than 30 years of experience as a residential and commercial interior designer, as well as her background in fine arts and her work with the disabled. Leslie is a professional member of the American Society of Interior Designers. She serves on the board of CJE Senior Life, and she's licensed as an interior designer in Illinois, New Mexico, and California. Leslie is a graduate of the Harrington College of Interior Design. You also received your bachelor's degree in fine arts from Drake University, a master's degree in arts from Northwestern University, specializing in the area of education of the hearing impaired. Again, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So today we're basically going to discuss interior design and being able to live in your home, you know, for the rest of your life without having to go to another place to meet your needs. So tell me a little bit about how you got involved with that.
So when I was in undergraduate school, I was trying to find a way to express myself. I was an art major, so I did independent study at a school in Iowa for children with special needs. I did it on a whim, and I became very interested. I studied under the art teacher there, and we all had all different types of population. The physically disabled, the mentally disabled, hearing impaired, any type of disability, low vision. So then I decided I was very interested in this to go on and get my master's. So I went on to Northwestern and got my master's in education of the hearing impaired. And then after that, I ran the art department at Whitney Young High School for the hearing impaired before going back to school in interior design.
Okay, what do you encounter? What can prevent someone from living at home safely? When I'm sure you do an assessment, I'm sure.
Yes, as you age, and now we're talking about seniors, for example, as we age, our senses start to change. We may have low vision, hearing impairment, other things happen with our senses, taste and smell. All these things can affect us as far as being able to live at home. If you can't see properly, you can't use the stairs properly. You can't see the difference between different levels. Going into a shower, many of us have done that in the past, where we close the shower curtain. And if there's no light in the shower, you can't see very well, and it becomes a dangerous place. Well, imagine now if you're 85 years old and you're doing this. First of all, our vision changes as we get older. We need 3 times more light as we grow older. So this would become even more difficult. We're not as mobile. But it may not just be a senior issue. It could be someone who develops MS in their 30s, or early onset Alzheimer's in their 50s, Parkinson's, or we have a car accident and have a spinal injury. All those things can affect us and affect us being able to live at home independently and safely.
Okay, and where do you come in? So what is your role?
I like to come in when there has been an alert that somebody's having an issue. Last year I got a call from a gentleman who was in a motorcycle accident, 50 years old, in Colorado. His motorcycle was totaled. He was wearing the full gear, but he developed a spinal injury. No longer could use his hands. So I was called in to redesign his home so he could live independently. That's one example. Another example, someone who is a senior and has developed some kind of memory loss or has a mobility issue, and I may be called in by their adult children, or maybe their spouse or somebody else who's looking after them.
Okay. And the amount of work that's done could be minimal or it could be major, as far as renovations, and accommodations for whatever they need.
Exactly. So I do a needs analysis at the beginning. I'll do a safety assessment, looking over the interior and the exterior of the space. Not just how they would use the bathroom or the kitchen or be able to put their clothes away in a closet, but I'm looking at how they would enter the house or enter the condo. So I do a total safety assessment, and then from there, then I could give them the modification recommendations and then have the opportunity to change the space. And as you said, it could be adding grab bars or lighting to a total renovation of the space.
Right. And I'm sure you work within the budget. Now, this is all, of course, has to be paid for by the person doing it. There are no insurance policies that would cover any type of accommodations or...
No.
Yes.
Unfortunately, there isn't. So, yes, I'm hearing to their budget. How long I think they can live there. If it's a young person, of course, we want to make all the modifications because they have a long life there. Maybe sometimes I'll do the analysis and decide, you know what, no matter what, I couldn't make enough modifications to have them live safely. And then I'll recommend that they shouldn't be living in that space, but maybe moving into assisted living or a nursing home facility.
Right. You have to be honest of what you can do and what would work for them. Absolutely.
Exactly.
So as far as making different accommodations for people, depending on their needs, do you work with any type of physician or any type of a social worker with that? What, more depending on the condition, or you just, work with the client themselves?
If I'm being referred to by like a geriatric care manager or a social worker, or even an organizer, yes, I'll go by their recommendations, or a physician. If I'm not, I also, if it's a family member, I'll talk to the family member. I want to know something of their health history. If there's a spouse involved, I would like to talk to them. So whoever is in that circle of that individual, I'd like to speak with. Sometimes I have very little information, and I just will have to speak to the individual myself and try to make the best recommendations as possible.
Well, you'll probably talk to them at length of,
Oh,
how,
definitely.
How you do this and how you do your laundry and how you hang up your clothes and, little things that we all take for granted, become quite burdensome, and, you don't want to have, somebody coming in to do your everyday living activities, that need to be done. And even the kitchen, not having things too high, total accessibility. So do you have to redo the kitchen in that sense, or?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
So I try to role play with them. So say I'm doing a bathroom, I'll ask them to show me how they get into the shower. I want to see how easy it is for them to open the shower door. Maybe that shower door needs to be replaced. Maybe it just needs to be re-oiled. Is there a place for them to sit when they go into the shower? Are there grab bars for them to hold on to? How would they manipulate the controls, if they can? Are they stepping over a threshold that maybe shouldn't be there because they don't have the mobility issues? Maybe they have a spinal cord injury and they cannot navigate that way. So there's all different questions I have for them. I ask them to show me. If they are, we're talking about the closets, I ask to show them how they reach. If you reach too high or you reach too low, you can throw yourself off balance. So I'm thinking of that. I go into the kitchen. Maybe they shouldn't be cooking anymore. So I don't want to make changes where they would be using the stove. Maybe they are. Maybe they are able to. I want to make sure there's landing space next to a refrigerator or next to a cooktop. Because not having those spaces to safely put the food down, and you have to turn yourself around, could cause you to fall. So I'm thinking of going through this whole space. I want to see how they exit their front door. and their back door. I recently did a home safety assessment, and the individual told me everything was fine. They had a ramp in the garage. I said, what happens if there's a fire in the back of your house? How are you going to leave the front of your house? You don't have a handrail and there's no lighting. So this all brings up different issues of things that should be addressed,
Right.
so they can be able to live there safely.
And what if the power goes out and you can't open the garage door because it's a manual?
Right. So
Yeah, you always have to think ahead of worst case scenario.
worst case scenarios.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, both populations. There's a younger population that has certain injuries or illnesses, and then there's the older population. How do they both differ as far as accommodating for their accessibility in the home?
Some of them are very much the same and some are very different. For the younger population, generally I am designing a space for someone who's going to live there for a long time, who wants their independence. A senior individual may want their independence, but they may have a progressive disease such as Alzheimer's or Parkinson's that's going to prevent them from living there for a great length of time. I'm also looking at the home for resale value. Many times this is their largest purchase. So I want them, if we have to then turn around and sell the home, to get the greatest amount of value for it. And a home that's being redesigned for a senior or someone with special needs shouldn't look like a home that's been designed for a senior or someone with special needs.
So, right. So you don't want it as obvious. And maybe, and I was thinking too, if you're dealing with a younger person, you might want, if they're a techie, different things that they can kind of like turn on, and instead of having to physically do everything, maybe if you're turning the drapes, instead of going there like this, everything is a remote. Do you do that kind of thing as well?
I use a lot of remote devices. Recently I had this gentleman who could not use his hands. I had to figure out how he could dry himself when he got out of the shower. So I created a room next to his shower where he literally walks in, and just walking into the space, the fan will turn on and dry his body. He can no longer be able to flush a toilet using a toilet lever. So I like to use technology. There is a device where he can just move his arm and the toilet flushes. The lights go on. A lot of these devices are what I use, both for people who have a pronounced disability as well as a senior. It's also an energy saving device because the lights turn off when they leave the room.
Absolutely, right. So you're not, wasted energy. Yes, there's so much in technology that can be so beneficial. Especially I was reading about you in your field, and that's why I brought it up, that you do, really do modifications using technology. When you touched on fall prevention before, so like if someone has, I see a lot of older homes, even if you do like a stair lift, it doesn't exactly work. There are just so many, especially homes that were built, before all the ADA compliances, that it's very difficult to make modifications. So in those instances, are they better off probably reacclimating to another place?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes I'll recommend that this house won't work. We can't put an elevator in. You can't use an electric chair to go up the stairs. Sometimes it doesn't work.
Because they're not wide enough.
They're not wide enough. Or you cannot make the space so they can live on the first floor. A number of years ago, I had a gentleman who developed Alzheimer's. His wife was 25 years younger. She said to me, I don't want him moving into a senior home. I didn't marry him to have to live in a senior home with him. I want to live in our home. So I took the first floor bathroom, which did not exist. There was just a family room. And I said, let's create a bathroom for him that opens into the garage, so this way he has all his living space on the first floor as his disease progresses. And then, as it did, he was able to live on the first floor, and the rest of the family room became his bedroom with a caregiver. And this way, he and his wife could still live under the same roof together as a couple. So I'm always looking for the better experience for them.
Oh, that's nice. Yes, I mean, you kept the marriage together and everybody was happy,
Right.
And you know what, you want to keep them together. I mean, even though she can with him in some type of an independent living, because she wouldn't qualify for assisted, would have to be independent with a caregiver, but that's not the lifestyle that she would want at her
No.
age. So, you know, it's really kind of putting the two in a better place.
In a better place
Yes.
together,
Mhm.
and this home could still be resold at some point to a young family with children, because it would have all these universal design aspects to it.
And that's so important, right, when you make the modifications.
Mm-hmm.
Now, have you ever encountered that anybody's selling the home and then the new people go, I don't want that? Can you put it back to the way that it is?
Yes, I've taken out the
Uh-huh.
electrical chair that goes up the stairs. I've taken out the grab bars and put in towel bars. But really, if you think about it, those grab bars are great towel bar holders.
Oh, no, they are.
And if kids are going to pull on them at 5
Mhm.
or 6, they're not going to come out of the wall. So, yes, I have put it back. But then you have rounded edges, which are great for anybody, for a 2-year-old or to an 82-year-old.
Right,
You've better lighting.
absolutely.
And
Now-
a quiet fan, which is great even if you're not hearing impaired, because you don't have that loud fan when you turn on the light or in the shower. So we can use a lot of those safety features. I do recommend, though, with seniors to remove the area rugs, and if they're a beautiful oriental, maybe we can hang them on the wall. Maybe
What
that,
kind of flooring do you recommend?
So something that's good for the spine, such as hardwood floors, bamboo floors, or vinyl. Ceramic tile and stone are very difficult for anybody to be able to stand on with our spines. We get tired easily. We may not realize it, but you do get more tired physically standing on a hard surface rather than one that gives. And if you drop a glass, it's not going to break that piece of tile, which is much more expensive to replace. You might get a little gouge in your hardwood floor that can then be replaced easily instead of replacing that whole stone floor.
What about being slippery?
Slippery, that's a very good idea to bring up. Yes, many of the highly polished stones can be very slippery. I don't recommend a shiny marble in a bathroom when you're getting out of the hot shower or a hot bath. There's a lot of porcelains, or there's even nice stones that have textures and make it easier. Or getting stones cut up in smaller pieces that give you more traction. And being able to put in a drain, a vertical drain, that's the same level as a stone, so you're not stepping over a threshold. So, and these things all look really nice, whether you're 20 or 80. They're very desirable.
According to most of the things I've read, that most accidents in the home happen either getting into the house, the entryway, and in the bathroom. And of course, the entryway could be rainy, or they don't have the proper rug, or they've fallen over the rug, or they're rushing to go to the bathroom, and you know, there are different. You have to really look at everything and assess what poses a danger to them.
Exactly. The bathroom is the most dangerous room in the house because there's water, there's usually a lack of lighting, and there's many different functions going on. And you're correct about getting in and out of a house. So you have to think about the flooring materials or the thresholds and how they're getting in and out. And if there's support with grab bars or railings, that will give them an easier way of getting in and out of the house. Also, the hardware. Is the hardware a handle, or does it have a U shape, which is what we use for people who have maybe some type of harder time with disability with their hands, being able to grab onto it. Then a slippery knob. Just think about when you take a shower, and if you have a slippery knob and your hands are full of soap, it's much harder to be able to grip onto it.
No, it is. You brought that up. Yes, definitely. Now, you do have your licenses in all these different states. Do you find that the climate has something to do with it? As you know, Illinois, we have the snow, we have the ice. Arizona, you have more dryness, you know, more desert. so or New Mexico rather, I think you're in New Mexico, and so how does that affect what you do?
Well, actually, my license is in New Mexico, and we've had a lot of snow this winter, and it's still snowing. So it is more pleasant being in California or New Mexico, but there are other issues. And in fact, California has one of the strongest, most stringent laws for accessibility to the other
Really?
states.
So Illinois, where does Illinois fall then?
They have a very strong code too.
Uh-huh.
But California is generally where we've done a lot of our testing with fabrics and flammability and other issues. But they've always been like ahead of the curve. And also they're a green state, which I think is important to be green friendly as well as accessible, because I think you can live longer in your home if you're living around environmentally friendly products.
Which is something you do. Okay. I just wanted to reiterate, if people want to contact you, do you want to just announce your website so we can just kind of, your website, Leslie?
Sure.
Yes.
It's Leslie, my website is Leslie, Leslie, M, like in money, Stern, Stern, design, design.com.
Very good. So people want to contact you. We're talking about acoustic lighting and hardware and also appliances and window treatment. So let's just touch a little bit on all the gadgets, and if they're going to be doing new appliances, what would they be getting?
New appliances? You're looking for something that's safer. I like make sure the controls are in the front of an appliance, such as a cooktop or an oven, so someone isn't reaching across a burner to turn on or off the burners, because that can become dangerous. Something that's lit up. You know, sometimes the new dishwashers, you have to open the door to see the controls. I like to see everything laid out in front. This way, if someone has a memory issue, they don't have to guess. It's spelled out whether the dishwasher's on or off. Refrigerator, I like the shelves within easy reach, so they don't have to bend down too far or overhead. I worry about microwave ovens, because many times they're installed high. And if you're reaching high to take out a hot casserole, it can be very dangerous. So I like appliances within our reach range.
Yeah, I don't know why they do that. I have the same problem because I'm, short in stature, and you're sitting there with a hot plate and trying to maneuver it and going on your tippy toes. It's not a good case ending.
No, it's not a good
No.
case ending. We can put microwaves in drawers. It might be a little more expensive, but I've done that. As far as window treatments, I like the automated, but I like to think about if someone has low vision, we want to prevent glare. So sometimes having some type of a blind that's adjustable that you can prevent that, or a shutter, is very helpful. Because glare can become very disconcerting for someone. It can cause them to become confused, just like a shiny surface on a highly polished marble floor. So,
Interesting. Yeah, there's so many things to go into. And I wanted to discuss a little bit about emergencies in the home, to get out of the home safely, and what do you do? I mean,
if I have somebody who is hearing impaired, I want to make sure there's a vibration or flickering light, so they are made aware that there is an alarm going on, because they're not necessarily going to hear it. Also, if someone has a hearing impairment, or as they age, they start to be able to lose the hearing in those high-frequency areas where you can't hear emergency.
so they're not going to hear the smoke detectors, obviously.
No, they're not going to. And also, your sense of smell diminishes as you grow older. So having a flashing light or a vibration is very important. So then they're alerted for smoke, gas, or fire.
Okay, and you make sure that everything is compliant, and you do everything with
Up
that.
to date, and change your batteries every 6 months, like you change your clocks.
Right. So what is the initial process? So somebody would contact someone like you, and they would say, do the assessment, and you would come up with different ideas in interior design, and if they want it very high tech, how do you do that as well? Do you work with other people then?
I do. Recently I did a home for a woman who had diabetes in her 60s, and I put in a technology control outside the shower, so she could turn on the water before she even entered the shower. This way she doesn't have to stand there and fiddle with the controls, and if they're hot or cold, it could cause her to lose her balance. The water is turned on from the outside with a technology control. She goes in and sits down. She picks up the handheld. She washes herself. She puts it back, and then she's able to get out of the shower and just hit a button and turn off the water. And that way she doesn't have to worry about falling, and the water is all aimed towards her body. It's not going to be slippery on the floor. So I try to use a lot of technology, if possible, and it's not necessarily more expensive. You can also use that for raising or lowering your window treatments too. And just think about how many times we would go to stand on a step stool or a chair to try and lower our window treatments.
It's still probably somebody needs to come into the home and, change light bulbs and just do, maintenance work.
Oh, yes.
That needs to be done, periodically to do that.
That's
But
right.
there's so much with technology as far as, really doing things by remote.
By remote, and they're easy. They're right at your hand. Whether you're in a wheelchair or a walker or you're able-bodied, it's very easy to just turn them on and off. And it isn't necessarily more money if it's thought through. So that's why I like to do a safety assessment ahead of time, and then I plan it out, thinking of the person's budget and what is the emergency, how soon they need this to be done. Because I don't want someone living in an unsafe space for any length of time.
And most of the time, can they live in the home while
Yes,
things are being done?
yes, many times we can live in the home. If we're working on a bathroom, they only have one bathroom, that does become a problem, but otherwise, yes.
Okay. And if you had to say one thing that people should do to make your home a little bit more accessible, if you find that you're having problems, what would that be?
It's hard to say one. One would be the flooring, definitely the flooring.
You're not for carpeting, are you?
I really don't like carpeting. I know it's really wonderful, and it's very soft on our feet when in the bedroom, but there's a lot of tripping involved when you're going from one material to another, where there's a threshold involved. So I do prefer not to have carpeting, and lighting is so important. Many times the spaces are not lit so you can see going down the stairs. There's not a three-way light, so when you're turning on the light, it's also lighting the basement as well as where you are, at the top of the stairs. So I'd say lighting and flooring are probably the two most important.
Oh, that's good to know. Very good to know. And have you done any of these revisions in your home?
Yes, I have.
Oh, I just thought I would ask you.
I do practice what I preach.
Good.
I'd like to stay in my home as long as possible.
And so what would you say as far as like for a younger person starting out, if they have like somebody they're taking care of in the home, should they start at what point? Do you think they should initially, as soon as they see something ongoing, or wait until somebody says that you really should do something for the home?
This is for them or for a parent?
Say, for a parent, yeah.
I think they should think about it right away. Definitely. Because usually if someone is having an issue, it's just going to progressively get worse.
And it can get worse very quickly. I think people have really, they don't understand the time frame. They think they have, years, and it could be, the progression could be very quickly. Well, thank you so much, Leslie Stern, for appearing on the program and giving us just an insight into what you have to do to be able to work for your home, to be within it, to spend the rest of your happy years inside your home.